Hey, welcome back to Liam Locke Gaming. I'm Liam Locke, and we are on the second part of our trip from Jacksonville International Airport to San Diego International Airport. We're in the Boeing 747, and we are currently flying over Arizona, heading towards San Diego. We are approximately, let's just take a look here at the flight management computer, about 156 nautical miles from our destination, with a scheduled arrival of 1830 Zulu according to the flight management computer. We got 1802 here in the cockpit. We're running a little behind schedule. Our flight plan called for an arrival, I believe, of 1807 on the ground, so we are running a little bit behind. Not a big deal. We'll make it work. We have been tracking our flight in the moving map, just to give you a visual reference of where we are. So here we are flying over Arizona. We got the Yuma test range off our right wing, and San Diego right over here. So we're closing in pretty quick. Let's see if we can't zoom in on this here just a little bit. So a lot of good detail. I really love what the moving map program brings to the game. Good visual reference of where you are in the world and what you're flying over top of. I also like the, let me grab this and get this off here. I also like the add-on, the FS Global 2010. If you look outside the aircraft here, there's some nice topology additions. It's a little difficult to see from 34,000 feet, but if you look down there, some of the textures in the ground give great realism to mountain ranges. Like, look over here to this side. That's visually fantastic compared to what it was under the standard FSX scenery packages. So I really like what it's brought to the game. Looks like we got a little city down there. We got an airport off our left wing here. The Yuma test range is back over here somewhere. Don't really see too much recognizable there, but we should be closing in on San Diego here really soon. Go back in the cockpit. Our top of descent is actually coming up really quick. If you look here at the navigation display, top of descent should be just after this waypoint. Which to me says that air traffic control hopefully is going to engage us here momentarily and start to give us some descent guidance. "137 nautical miles from San Diego. Everything's been good to go. We got a quick handoff here. Everything's been pretty uneventful so far in this flight. We did have a fuel imbalance that we had to deal with. The 747 with 4 fuel tanks feeding the engines. Trying to keep these things balanced. One of the settings we had early on when we took off caused the majority of the fuel to be consumed out of the inside tanks. So we had to change some of these cross-feed valves to turn them off just to kind of keep the balanced consumption of fuel. I haven't had to deal with that obviously on the 2-engine planes, so that's something new on the 4-engine plane. Top of descent is getting ready to hit. In fact, the flight management computer is giving us a heads up that we need to reset our altitude setting so that the flight plan can start to execute its own descent as it's been programmed. Now, that's typically what we would do, and ATC wouldn't balk at that, but here in FSX, when you're working with the ATC built into the game, if I start to descend before they give me descent guidance, they're going to complain and say that I'm not at my assigned altitude. So we kind of ignore that for the time being, and we'll wait on ATC to tell us when to descend. The downside about working with ATC and FSX, as I've said before in a couple of my flights, if you've watched any of them, is sometimes their descent guidance is not really reasonable. It'll come late, or they'll expect you to descend from a very high altitude to a low altitude and expect you to engage the ILS almost, well, very quickly. And sometimes that descent guidance is just not reasonable. I mean, you're descending at 3,000, 4,000 feet per minute, and I'm sure that if I was a passenger on board this plane, I probably wouldn't appreciate that, and that would be pretty hair-raising. I think the standard program flight descent is about 1,800 feet per minute. I think I've seen that somewhere. But we'll go with what they give us, and we'll try to get ourselves down and lined up at the runway. Now, I was a little concerned when I got this flight plan because according to my plan through SimBrief, you know, this is an instrument flight. I am expecting a runway with an ILS approach. However, the flight management computer did not indicate that the runway that we've been assigned for our landing, which was 27, didn't indicate that it had an ILS approach. However, I've since gone into FSX. If you look at its onboard map and we zoom out here to the airport, if we click on the airport, you can see both runway 9 and runway 27 do have ILS approaches. So from a game standpoint, we should be good to go, should be able to engage those. So I'm going to come back here a little bit on our range just to space out these waypoints. So right on time. We've got some descent guidance. I will let the plane descend on its own. And we'll see if ATC complains about our rate of descent. So we're dropping at about 2,000 feet per minute. Looks like that's what it's programmed for. Oh, it's actually going a little steeper than that. We are flying with dynamic weather, so I like seeing the clouds update and change. So we don't have confirmation from ATC yet of our runway. We did program in runway 27. It's possible we could get reassigned depending on the wind at the airport. We're always typically going to land and take off into the wind. According to the flight management computer, we are 97 nautical miles from the airport. Still looking at an 18:30 Zulu arrival time, so about 20 minutes out. A little look around here. We're starting to see some city centers down below, some congested population centers. A couple mountain ranges down there to the left, off our left wing. You can see a couple of airports down there, two fairly close together. Looks like according to our moving maps, we are getting ready to fly over El Centro. So new descent guidance down to 14,000 feet. Looks like this might be a smooth descent into California after all. And there's one of our warnings to expedite our descent. We're descending at 2,000 feet per minute. We're going to let that continue. Down through 23,200 and about 40 knots. Everything looks good so far. Just adjusting our heading bug so that it's tracking along with the path I'm flying with the flight plan. So it looks like they're happy with our descent so far. No additional warnings about expediting our descent. We'll continue along this descent rate. You can start to see some of the mountain ranges a little closer as we're descending to a lower altitude. Again, much improved visuals of the change in elevation of the terrain, the topology below us. The cloud details are really nice too, but I've got this odd flicker thing going on. I'm not sure how to quite fix that yet, but the details of the clouds are outstanding. So down through 18,000 feet, at 18,000 feet we transition back to an altimeter assigned value as opposed to standard. Let You just see if they gave an altimeter reading. So the last altimeter reading was 299.5, but that wasn't directed to us. So we're probably going to be somewhere close to that. Looks like it's changed a little bit. We'll go past 18,000. We'll come back and get somewhere close to there. So we'll set it for 299.5 right now, pending additional guidance. We can also now, I think it was Barrow was off because I was under standard altimeter setting, so we should be able to set our, yeah, there we go. So we're going to set this for 215. Come on. Far. So 215. There's the Barrow setting, 215. That's going to be our minimum for the runway approach. We're now coming down through 15,000 feet. $240 knots for our descent. Start to see, looks like the coastline out there and some more mountain ranges. Very nice. Look at those details. I love the mountain range details that have been added into the game. That's just really a quality touch to the realism of flying in this simulator. Allegedly, there's a newer version out as well, I think Ultimate, which I haven't seen yet. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get that for FSX Steam Edition. I'll probably look into that one as well. Looks like they're giving us runway 9, so that's different than our assigned runway. So we will have to let the flight management computer know that. So we're at 14,000 feet right now. Let's go down here and change our arrival. Oh, hold on. 10. 10, good to go. We are getting ILS 9. Going to execute that change just so that puts it into our computer system, and that should give us our ILS approach as well. Left heading 280. Here's a view from underneath the aircraft looking straight ahead. give you an idea of where we are, here's the moving map skin. We're tracking along our progress. We're coming in, it's vectoring us out here to the north for an approach into San Diego. It looks like we're going to be coming in down here. So we've got a different altimeter setting, 3000. And now we've got another altimeter change, 29909. Good Lord. We're flying through everybody's airspace. Still 29909 for altimeter setting, so we're good to go there. We did get our runway change, so that is good. We are in the neighborhood of 56 nautical miles from the runway. Our arrival time is delayed even further. We're now looking at 1838 Zulu, 1824 in the aircraft. Love the terrain. Flying here over the mountains, Southern California. The skies could not be any clearer right now, at least heading into San Diego. We've got some clouds here off to the right. But the weather here in Southern California looks to be really nice. Spot check our setup for our arrival here. Let's go ahead and get the auto brake set. I also want to look at our NIT reference for arrival. So looks good. We want to designate a 30-degree flap, so our landing speed is going to be 145 knots, which means we'll fly our approach at that VREF plus 5, or 150 knots will be our approach speed. 240 knots, so we are at 14,000 feet. Looks like we're dropping, picking up. So we're going to push our descent rate up here a little bit just to try and get the plane down. We're going to drop at 2,500 feet per minute. We just got to keep an eye on our speed, make sure we don't pick up too much speed as we descend. So we are picking up a little bit of speed. I want to slow the plane down, so I have deployed the air brake on the aircraft. Our altimeter did get changed to 2997, so we want to back up here just a little bit. You can see the spoilers deployed on the aircraft to slow it down, keep our speed under control. Southern California down below us. We're descending to 4,000 feet to set up for our approach. Speed's at about 273 knots. We're going a little fast, especially below 10,000. So we're trying to slow down here a little bit. We want to prepare for landing, so I need to go up, and since we're below 10,000 feet, we're going to go ahead and get our landing lights turned on. Go ahead and, we don't really need those on, get our landing lights set up here. Those are good. So I'm going to reduce our descent rate to about 2,000 feet per minute. That's going to allow us to bleed off a little more speed since we're getting up a little fast, 275 knots. We'll go to 1,800, start to bleed off some more of this speed. As long as ATC is not complaining at us, we should hopefully be in good shape. We're pretty close to 4,000 feet, so I think we'll be okay. I didn't even have a distance indication from the runway yet, and we haven't even started our turn to the left for our final approach fix, or our initial approach fix, actually. I think we're in good shape. So the computer's yelling at us because we're back down to speed. I need to take the air brake off, so I've retracted the air brake. Our speed is looking pretty decent. Back down to 240 knots, which is where we want to be. We are at flight level 4,000 feet. Just spot check. Did we get another altimeter reading? 29907 is our altimeter. It's important that we keep that set because that affects the elevation reference. We certainly don't want to come in too hard to the ground. So just looking over here to the left at the moving map, as you can see, we're out over the ocean and coming back around to the left for alignment with runway 9. So we need to slow down now, start bleeding off some of this speed. 25 miles out, we're going to be closing in kind of rapidly, plus we've got another 2,000 feet to descend. We've got our localizer set up. Don't have any reference from the ILS yet. We turn to 125. We should be flying a course of 125. We are. We're on the right path to engage the localizer, but we need to get our first flap set up. We're almost at 2,000 feet. Don't have, localizer hasn't come to life yet. arming the speed brake for landing. We're at 2,000 feet. Still looking for the localizer. I don't see that quite yet. I'm also not getting an indication from the runway. So without that, we are not going to be able to engage the localizer. Let me just check our radio here real quick. ILS 1115. That doesn't seem to be correct according to the notes I have on this runway. I wonder if I can get this changed quickly enough. 1109 is actually what I have according to FSX. It doesn't like that. I'm going to hop out here for a second and just kind of see visually where we are. So the runway is over here, San Diego International. It would appear that we have already crossed the path for where we would engage the localizer. Here is the ILS frequency that I have noted as 110.90. That is not what we had programmed into the flight management computer, and that's kind of an automatic thing done by the FMC itself. So we're going to have to override that here and probably declare a missed approach just for this arrival. Not a big deal, but we need to work out our ILS signal. If I can get closer in here and make it easier to see this. The runway right here is what we were shooting for, and if you draw a line straight out, we've pretty much are about to or have already overshot this particular runway. So let's go back and try and work out what we've got going on here. So we're at 2,000 feet. The runway should be over here. Yeah, we've already overshot the runway. So we're going to have to go missed on this and try and get lined up again. Not a problem. But give us a chance to work on the computer. Oops. No. Declare a missed. Alright, so we'll let that get us climbing back up. Let's work on our ILS. Departure arrival. Let's see if this other 9 gives me a different assignment. So ILS Y 9 at KSAN. Clear this message. That's been executed. And we still don't have the correct ILS reference here. So if can I clear this? Go to, let's just say runway 9. That's better. Go to our nav radio and we're going to put in There we go. So that should be correct. 110.9 with a 93-degree heading. That should be appropriate for our ILS indication if that's correct for that runway. I don't want to change it again because it's giving me the wrong reading. So we'll see if this one picks up on the runway or not. They're going to turn us back around here momentarily. Spot check our fuel real quick. We should be pretty good to go. What is that down there? Look at that. Is that like a freighter ship or something? I don't know what that is. That's an awfully big object in the water. All right, so our second attempt Coming back around, we're a little ways out. What I can tell you, what the good news is getting that radio program. So we picked runway 9 as opposed to the ILS runway 9 because the ILS identifier doesn't appear to be accurate in my nav data, even though it's current. The FSX application has got different nav data for that runway. That's runway 9. We've got the ISAN, right? ISAN's our ILS identifier. The 110.9 was the frequency for the ILS heading, and now I can see that I'm 25 nautical miles away from the threshold of the runway. So this is going to be better. Our ILS system should allow us to engage now that we've got that picked up here on our PFD. And you can see that even our localizer reference is engaged and available. So much better situation than we were in just a moment ago. Alright, right 065, descend to 2000. Keep our speed down here a little bit as we do this descent. We'll go down a little bit steeper than we are, just to get us down and leveled off. Go ahead and bring our speed down here a little bit as well. Okay, a localizer. We are lined up for a good connection on the localizer. I want to turn the localizer on. We're still descending down to our assigned altitude of 2,000 feet. We are currently 16.5 nautical miles from the runway. So we should be down in time. I'm going to bleed off a little more speed here. We'll engage the speed brake just to slow us down a little bit more. (14 nautical miles, 14.6 nautical miles, approaching 2,000 feet for our intercept with the localizer. We're going to do our first flap position. Bring the speed brake back in. The flaps will start to slow us down here a little bit. So we are flaps 1. We're going to our next flaps position. We are at 12 nautical miles. Slow down here a little bit more. Go to flaps 10. Localizer has come to life, so it's coming over. We should engage it here momentarily. 10 nautical miles from the runway. Localizer is engaged. We're going to start to slow down a little more here. Go to our next flaps position here momentarily. I'm going to drop the landing gear. Our approach speed was 150 knots, so we're going to get our speed down some more. Closing in quickly on the runway, so it's at 8 nautical miles. 8 nautical miles. Next flaps position. We want to engage the approach. I almost forgot about that. So we should engage the glide slope, and we're on it. So that was perfect timing. We almost missed that. We have our landing clearance. Get our speed down to our approach speed. We're going to go full flaps here. I got my speed brake armed. Let me just make sure. There we go. Now we got the auto brake armed for landing. Looking pretty good.
1,000.
Our auto land in the 747 is engaged. Get to kick back here and enjoy the ride down to the runway.
Approaching minimums.
We're going to continue. No visibility
Minimums.
issues. Looking good. We're right lined up with the runway.
100. 50. 30. 20. 10.
All right. Front gear is down. We'll engage the reverse thrust. Get our speed down here to 60 knots. And we'll continue to slow down. Beautiful. Welcome to San Diego, California. San Diego International Airport. Get off the runway here, figure out where we need to taxi to get to the gate.
Delta 6301 Heavy, exit runway when able. Delta 6301 Heavy, contact ground on 123.9er.
Got it, so we'll just park over here for just a brief second. We'll acknowledge the ground handoff.
3.9er, Delta 6301 Heavy.
Contact ground. Get our taxi to the gate.
Delta 6301 Heavy, request taxi to the gate.
Delta 6301 Heavy, taxi to gate 30, using taxiway Bravo.
Taxi to gate 30 via taxiway Bravo. Delta 6301 Heavy.
Alright, we got a couple things we need to get situated here. We're going to turn off the spoilers, which I believe those are armed right now. Let's just take a closer look here. So the spoilers look like they're already off. We want to retract our flaps. Go up here and turn off our landing lights, but we're going to turn on our runway turnoff lights and our taxi lights. On the ground, we'll turn the strobe off. Everything else is good to go. We also want to turn on the APU, get that ready to go. We'll let that fire up as we taxi to the gate. We need to take a quick look outside and figure out where we're going also. Looks like we're going to double back. Alright, our gate's a little bit behind us. Can we get turned around here? Yeah, looks like we can get turned around. We'll have to whip around here. Not a problem. We can make it work. Oh, look at the cruise ship. Good visuals. Of course, in San Diego. What? What happened? Are you serious? How in the world did that possibly happen? Alright, well, that was fun. Not. So, bear with me for 1 second, and let's do the Scooby Doo ending. So, apparently, taxiway B here at San Diego International is awfully close to some structures right along the left-hand side of the runway. If you look out the cockpit window there, you'll see that circular fuel tank or whatever it's housing off to the left of the runway. We caught the left wing on the edge of that building. So even though I was holding the center line down the taxiway, we still managed to clip the building. It seems kind of questionable to bring a 747 with greater than 200-foot wingspan down taxiway B without giving some kind of warning or notification, or maybe there's something written that I wasn't aware of, that I'm going to have to go way to the right of this taxiway in order to clear that building. So we're gonna attempt this again and see if we can make it to the gate here and complete out our flight today. So we'll go ahead and get things going here. We'll just keep an eye on our speed. As we make it down here towards the building, here comes a vehicle. It's going to run. Nope, it's not going to run out in front of us. But I want to go out and just show. So I have to go way over here to the right of the taxiway in order to miss this building. So I'm going to kind of go over as far right as I can without taking the plane off of the taxiway, hopefully, and see if we can manage to get by this time. You know, you're so used to just traveling on these taxiways, trying to keep the plane on the center line, you don't even begin to consider that I might actually clip a building. So I'm at the edge. I really don't want to take the landing gear off of the taxiway, and we'll see if it lets me get by this time. Take it nice and easy here. And if you look further down, look at that other building. That other building is closer to the taxiway than even the tanker building is. We're getting really close to the edge here, but I don't want to hit the building. Go way out here to the edge. Yeah, so that's what happened last time. Sorry about that. I actually went out to look and see if there was a different layout for San Diego's airport for FSX, and I wasn't able to find one. I find it hard to believe that those buildings are that close to the taxiway, but who knows, maybe they are. But now we can continue about as if nothing happened, right? Our Scooby Doo ending there. It looks like our gate is going to be right up here on the left. So if everything had gone perfectly as planned, this would have been an easy arrival. Gate is just off the runway. scoot over here a little bit just so we can make sure that we're lined up. That looks like it's pretty good. We're going to stop here at the gate. Go ahead and prepare the plane to get these passengers to disembark from the aircraft. We've got our APU already turned on. We'll just spot check that real quick here on our status page. So APU is fired up. We want to switch over to that power before turning off the engines. So we can see on the overhead console the APU generator 1 is available, APU generator 2. That'll disconnect us from the generators by the engines, make it safe for us to turn off the engines. Jumping all over the place here again, sorry about that. We'll let them start to shut down. We'll go ahead and get the jetway connected to the aircraft as well. Go down here, make sure that the seatbelt signs are in the off position. Get our door situated for disembark. Go ahead and get our cargo bay doors open as well. Now we'll go ahead and call for passengers to unload. Grounds crew is going to come and connect up to the aircraft and get the passengers' luggage and any cargo off the plane. And basically at this point, we're going to wait for passengers to disembark a little early in the day, probably to be shutting down the aircraft. But we are in basically turnaround state once we get everybody off. So I'm glad you watched this video. I appreciate you coming to Liam Locke Gaming and watching some of my flights. This is our first flight in the Boeing 747. I really like this aircraft. I love the detail in the aircraft, and I look forward to putting together some more flights for it. I'm Liam Locke. We will see you next time. Thank you. Bye.